What I wrote about in the Times was how now on sets in Hollywood there are intimacy directors, just like there would be a stunt director. When somebody is vulnerable, there's somebody there to protect them and look over them. In this moment, we are watching Hollywood take the high ground over the United States government. That's a huge red flag. That's not how this should work. The government should be holding the higher moral standard, but Hollywood is.
We've been talking about how you can't predict and write what has been going on the last few days.
2 years.
Or years. What do you think of the Republicans on this Judiciary Committee?
Well, I mean, this is all... I found myself, first of all, as a writer, I try to make the reader shed a tear. I found myself crying yesterday during Dr. Ford's testimony. I couldn't... Anyone who's suffered any kind of trauma understands what she's talking about. And as a scientist, when she says 100%, I understand that it means 100%. So that was absolutely moving. But when I saw Kavanaugh, I couldn't create a character like that. That bouillabaisse of toxic masculinity and anger and entitlement, you couldn't come up with it. It was too much.
It was sort of like bad casting. Like, this is the guy who you decided to put in front of people to seem reasonable and to make the most important decisions in the land. This guy shouldn't be allowed to drive a car. He's this volatile. He's this easily provoked. And then you're going to have him make the most important decisions in the country? That's incredible.
No, I mean, I agree. I think he's unfit. And if you can, I don't think we can put any of this aside, and nor should we. But there are other issues that you pointed out, Ari, just a few minutes ago. And another one, too, that we saw on the board is, listen, I mean, he was misleading yesterday.
At the least.
At the least. Was not telling the whole truth when he was talking, for example, about other witnesses to the event, supposedly refuting, I think was the word he used, refuting Dr. Blasey Ford's testimony. That's not quite what happened.
It really
yesterday.
struck me too the way that he couldn't even define and admit that he was an immature teenager and what those words meant.
And you both just hit on something, which is his job is to be fair and find facts.
Yes.
And it's always easier when it doesn't affect you, and it's harder when it does. What you just said, that he referred to someone saying, I don't remember whether this happened, who, by the way, wrote a book about alcoholism, which the person struggled with, but it makes them less credible for their memories. And he referred to that under oath as that refutes it, which is, as you just point out, directly false. I want to play the Lindsey Graham of it all, because that was the Twilight Zone, A Few Good Men. It was like he thought he had the closing speech in A Few Good Men, but for a lot of the country, he was in a different movie. And I do think there is room, and I've said this, and sometimes it's unpopular to say, I think there is room to be very careful about how slow we go on finding facts. I think Dr. Ford was highly credible, but before we heard her, we didn't know that yet. I think the fact that she spoke under oath is important. Before she was under oath, we didn't know what she would sound like under oath. So that's a process that takes time. But Lindsey Graham goes on the other extreme, and I want you to analyze him as a character, giving his potential denouement. I don't know which book of yours he'd fit into, but take a look. Take a look at him. Absurdistan. Lindsey Graham, here we go.
If you wanted an FBI investigation, you could have come to us. What you want to do is destroy this guy's life, hold this seat open, and hope you win in 2020. You've said that. This is the most unethical sham since I've been in politics. And if you really wanted to know the truth, you sure as hell wouldn't have done what you've done to this guy.
Look, I grew up in the Soviet Union. He reminds me of Khrushchev. All he needed was to take off his shoe and start banging against the table. It was outrageous, and it makes me think, what is the future of the GOP, after events like this? Like, what's, do they have a future as a mainstream party? I mean, what is the next generation of women, people of color? Is anyone going to, have any, or is this going to become like Germany's alternative for Deutschland, the far-right party, Is it going to be focused on, I don't know, Civil War reenactors,
you're talking about splintering ethnic parties that repeal a grievance. That's a big part of it. I have to fit in, as I mentioned earlier in the show, our 1 hour rule, which is Hardball starts soon. My special thanks to Mara, Gary, and Margaret. Tomorrow, I should tell you, the weekend will be live in Central Park with performances by Janet Jackson, Cardi B, Janelle Monáe. Msnbc will have news coverage through the day and coverage of Global Citizen through the night. I'll be a part of it. It starts at Saturday, 3 p.m. Eastern, and I'll be there with Chris Hayes, Joy Reid, and many more. That is, as I mentioned, the end of the beat. Hardball is up next.
Overtime. Let's play hardball.
Chris Matthews in Washington. With all the political and moral consequence it holds, the contest over the nomination of Bret Kavanaugh to the United States Supreme Court has been just that, a contest. And tonight, what looked like a victory for the president early today has gone into overtime. Late today, President Trump ordered a supplemental background check be opened on Kavanaugh's file hours after the Senate Judiciary Committee requested that he do so. Kavanaugh's fate now lies in the hands of the Federal Bureau of Investigation. What counts now more than anything is what the Bureau comes up with on the nominee. Did he engage in the conduct of which the several women accusers said he did? Was he a heavy drinker who becomes belligerent when intoxicated? A week from now, we should know, or know more of the answers. That dramatic development came after Senator Jeff Flake of Arizona threatened to vote no on Kavanaugh's nomination unless allegations of sexual assault and misconduct against Kavanaugh were investigated by the FBI.
I would be only comfortable moving forward on the floor. I'll move it out of committee, but I will only be comfortable moving on the floor until the FBI has done more investigation than they have already. This country is being ripped apart here, and we've got to make sure that we do due diligence.
Well, in a statement, Judge Kavanaugh wrote, throughout this process, I've been interviewed by the FBI. I've done a number of background calls directly with the Senate, and yesterday I answered questions under oath about every topic the senators and their counsel asked me. I've done everything they've requested and will continue to cooperate. Well, according to NBC News, the drama this morning unfolded as Senator Flake and Senator Chris Coons of Delaware and other senators huddled in the committee's anteroom, negotiating the terms. There they are. Another key Republican, Senator Lisa Murkowski of Alaska, was involved in the talks via phone. And on his way to the hearing, Senator Flake was confronted, this is a real moment to remember, by two sexual assault survivors.
I was sexually assaulted and nobody believed me. I didn't tell anyone, and you're telling all women that they don't matter, that they should just stay quiet, because if they tell you what happened to them, you're going to ignore them.
You're allowing someone who is unwilling to take responsibility for his own action in the higher court of the country, and to have the role of repairing the harm that has been done in this country to many people.
Well, Senator Flake was asked if that moment affected him.
I think everything that I've seen and viewed and experienced in the last couple of weeks has had an impact. So it's been everything.
Well, Majority Leader Mitch McConnell has no obligation, of course, to honor this commitment, but was forced to oblige as other Republicans joined Senator Flake's position. Senators Murkowski, Collins, Manchin, and Heitkamp endorsed the move to have the FBI do further investigating, and all of them are seen as pivotal, undecided votes when it comes to Judge Kavanaugh's nomination. And here's what Senator Murkowski had to say about the investigation to come.
Senator Murkowski, how do you feel about what has been agreed to?
I think it was a good step today.
For more, I'm joined by NBC News Capitol Hill correspondent Casey Hunt, Michelle Goldberg of the New York Times. She's a columnist. U.S. Congressman Ryan Costello of Pennsylvania, and Paul Butler, former federal prosecutor and an MSNBC analyst. I want to start in that order. Casey, what a day. I mean, I think he started today saying he's going to vote aye to get it out of committee, and then a lot of things happened. Tell me how the sequence worked that led to this overtime in the game, if you will.
Chris, it was really remarkable. I mean, we, in the morning, got this statement from Jeff Flake that said, I'm going to vote for Judge Kavanaugh. And we all thought, that was potentially that was potentially going to put more pressure on these other Republican senators who were still on the fence. We thought the hearing was going to go forward. The mood was going to remain contentious, everyone at each other's throats. And then something changed. That hallway, that elevator encounter that you showed with Jeff Flake happened as he was on his way to the committee room. When he got to the committee room, after his statement had broken, reporters told Chris Coons, who's a friend of Flake's, that the statement had been put out. And Coons became visibly emotional. He's not a guy who typically swears. He used swear words, but in a tone that was more sad than angry. Even out of the Capitol tonight in a police car, because there are people who have been threatening her in a way that makes her feel very uncomfortable. This is a moment in our politics where people have to decide, what kind of people do you want running this country? Do you want people doing what Jeff Flake and Senator Coons did today, or do you want people acting differently? And I think really it's something that we're all going to have to grapple with as this process unfolds.
Casey, I can hear in your voice your concern on our republic, but not just as a reporter, and I agree completely. I hope this does turn the tide against this evil incivility that's going on, because I think it does meet some of the demands of the people who criticize this nomination. The FBI is a pretty good organization with a lot of resources. It can get a lot done in a week. Thank you very much for that reporting with heart, Casey Hunt. Let's go to Michelle Goldberg, who's written beautifully about this with passion. Do you think this will begin? I mean, I do. I'll make the case. The FBI's got a lot of people. They can put 50 people down to Rehoboth or Dewey Beach, or whatever the hell it is down there, and find this character, and they can get him on the record. I don't care what, if they spend enough time with him. The same with all the people that may have been at the party over in Chevy Chase area. All the people that may have been there. All the people that made this woman who went to high school in Gaithersburg, what she has to say. The woman up in New York, Ramirez, who said something awful happened with her and him one night. It does seem they've got the firepower, the candle power, to find out a good percentage of the truth about this guy. Your thoughts, Michelle? You wrote beautifully today.
I mean, I think that's right, and I think that's why this came as a profound relief to me, because what Christine Blasey Ford, what the Democrats have been asking for, has not been that radical, right? They've been asking for an FBI investigation. They've been asking for at least a process as decent as Anita Hill got, which is now remembered as a national shame. And so I think that, yes, there are a lot of leads. It's been crazy the way yesterday was presented as he said, she said, when by all acknowledgments, there is another witness that Christine Blasey Ford identified as being in the room.
Two more.
Wanted to be subpoenaed, wanted the FBI to interview, and people are acting like as if that there is no way to get at the truth of what happened 36 years ago, when, as you said, there are a lot of different leads that you can follow, and that's what she's been asking for all along.
And following up on that, Michelle, it seems like it's not too hard to crack the case made by the nominee. First of all, if there was a party, people deny, and they know he was there, and he denies it. Well, that's a problem. If he is shown to be in public a man who drinks too much and gets belligerent, and he said, "Oh, I hardly drink at all. I have a few beers." He kept saying, "I like beer." It seems to me that he could be caught in a perjury trap pretty easily if the FBI goes out there and really does the job.
Well, to me, one of the questions going forward is if they don't actually find anything definitive on the sexual assault, and we don't know if they will, whether it will matter the sort of smaller lies that he told while he was testifying to Congress that are almost definitely, I mean, he was almost certainly dishonest about his drinking record, talking about how he had never blacked out when many classmates say otherwise. He seemed to have been dishonest about the meaning of certain kind of sexual innuendos in his yearbook, certain slang in his yearbook. There was plenty of times when he could have just been a little bit frank and, maybe admitted that he was a jerky high school student, and instead he put forward this image as a choir boy. I have a feeling that all of that is going to be shown pretty quickly to be untrue. The question is whether any of that will be definitive when the Senate finally votes on this.
A hard line to defend, choir boy. Anyway, 2 women have accused Bret Kavanaugh and his friend Mark Judge of sexual misconduct. Of course, I think there's a stronger word than misconduct here, at parties when they were younger. Well, yesterday, under oath, Dr. Ford accused Kavanaugh of assaulting her while Judge looked on, an allegation he's denied. And as a central figure, Mr. Judge was never called to testify to speak to the FBI. Not yet. Well, I think he's going to have his day. Dr. Ford was asked if she would like to see that happen.
Would you like Mark Judge to be interviewed in connection with the background investigation and the serious, credible allegations that you've made?
That would be my preference. I'm not sure it's really up to me, but I certainly would feel like I could be more helpful to everyone if I knew the date that he worked at the Safeway so that I could give a more specific date of the assault.
Well, with the investigation reopened now, as of today, Judge, through his lawyers, said he would cooperate with any law enforcement agency that is assigned to confidentially investigate these allegations. Paul Butler, what does that mean? It seems to me he's a figure in this case, a possible witness, a possible perp, if you will, and he's saying, I want to be